right. Thank you, Brian, and also thank you, Amanda, for all your help. So, and thank you all for having me here. I'm from Seattle, as Brian mentioned. I work at Tableau Software, and we have a free version of the product for you, and it's for really being used by organizations, number one, around the world. So that could be Brazil or Belarus, and it's used here in the United States as well, from everyone from CNBC or Wall Street Journal down to small local papers. So it's very versatile in that regard. So I'm going to play a quick video just to give you a sense of what it's about, and then I'm not going to spend any time in PowerPoint. I'm just going to go right into a demo so you guys get a feel for what it is and how easy it is to use. Okay, so here we go.
Tableau was born out of a need to ask and answer questions of data in real time. Tableau Public allows you to take your data and bring it to life. It allows you to visualize it and share it with others in a way that they can actually understand it. And allows you to easily embed it on your web page so that others can see it. It starts by immediately connecting you to the data. And Tableau does a lot of the work for you to figure out what the data type is. It's not just about turning a boring table into some eye candy. The data visualizations are live. So what you can do is drag and drop the data right onto the canvas and immediately start to see some results. Immediately start to answer some of your questions. You can interact with one chart in such a way that the other ones change as well. So it allows you to have this really deep experience where you can continue to navigate through a million different questions. You can quickly look at things in a whole new way. The dashboard is actually a fully functional application that you can embed right into your website. All this without writing any code. When you visualize data, it lets you create an exploratory environment where other people can discover other insights based on the questions that they have. This is why Tableau Public was created. It's a free tool. It's for anyone to use. It allows this dialogue to take place. You don't need to understand code and know how to program. You don't have to develop software. You don't have to be some design expert. All you need to be is an explorer.
Okay, so all the videos always make it sound so easy, right? And actually, so it is. So my story was that I was back at Medtronic in Los Angeles, great medical device company, and I was managing a marketing analytics team, and I wanted to make my own website, just like you all have, where I could publish interactive visualizations about everything from my favorite hockey player to, I don't know, like my child's sleeping schedule. And so I was kind of into it. I liked it. And so I was like, oh, I got to learn ProtoViz, which was a precursor to D3 about 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I'm not a coder, but I'll try. So I was trying. And someone said, no, just try to download Tableau Public and try it out. I never heard of it, so I downloaded it and sort of, kind of fell in love with it, obviously, and here I am. I get the chance to tell you all about it and what you can do with it. So I'm not going to spend any time in PowerPoint, like I said. I'm just going to dive right into it. So there was a great article. And how many know 538, right? You guys fans of 538? Nate Silver, he's got a great site here, 538.com, and amazing work, right? A lot of what they do is static. So let me show you an example of an article that he published, Nate, last May. So about a year ago now, almost exactly a year ago. And he's talking about diversity in cities and how oftentimes cities that are very diverse at the city level, if you go down to the neighborhood level, they're quite segregated. And so he was showing some of this neighborhood level data. The colors are different ethnicities, and it's interesting to see these pockets of neighborhoods pop up in some cities, but not all. Chicago was the one that he was talking about since he went to school there. But they have these indices, right? So there's data involved here, and these are showing there's two different ways to look at it, right? One is how diverse is the city? Okay, how likely are you to bump into someone of a different ethnicity at a city level? But if you go down to a neighborhood level, is that less likely or more likely, or how does that all play out? Okay, so what he was finding was some of these cities had maybe high diversity, like Chicago, but low integration, right? Where a lot of that diversity at the city level was lost at the neighborhood level. Okay, so he created this scatter plot, and I'm kind of a scatter plot junkie. True story, I almost bought scatterplots.com, but I had to pay for the groceries, so I didn't. But anyway, he's got this great scatter plot that shows the citywide diversity, right? So dots on the right are very diverse. Chicago, New York, LA, lots of different ethnicities. But the height is how diverse the neighborhoods are, right? So cities low down here, Detroit, Baltimore, have lower diversity, or you would say the neighborhoods tend to be more segregated than others. And this is a great view. It really says a lot, but I always want to, see what's going on in one of these little dots here, and I can't because it's static. So let me show you how I would do that, and it's fairly easy. We've got the data right here. It's a really simple spreadsheet, actually. It just shows the city and the state, and then we have these three indices, right? The city level, the neighborhood level, and then a comparison between those two. So a negative value would indicate a city that had, a lot of segregation at the neighborhood level, whereas a positive number would indicate a city that has, about the same amount of diversity, whether it's neighborhood or city. Okay, cool. So I would just open up Tableau. Let me kind of show you how this would work here. I just make a new file. So again, Tableau Public, you can download that for free. And I'll just show you how I would do this. And you're going to install this on a Mac or a PC. Again, it's free. And you go to Connect to Data. I know it's in an Excel file. And it is called, and I'll show you guys how to do this, I promise, tomorrow for a couple hours. Urban Diversity in America. My goal here is to give you a flavor of what can be done. So Tableau immediately recognizes things like city and state as geographic fields, right? It immediately recognizes these indices as quantitative values that I can do math with. And I just go right into the data. And how many of you think you can create an interactive map or have done that already? So I'm just going to double click on city. And then I've got my interactive map. Because Tableau has latitude and longitude built into it. It already knows where these cities are. It already knows the shape of the state. It knows the shape of your zip codes, counties, congressional districts, MSAs. It already has those built in. So you don't have to go hire some GIS expert to make your next campaign or election results map. All right, so this just tells me the cities that are there. I know where they are, but I want to know which ones are more or less segregated. So I'm going to take this index, right? So this is the way this works. Here's the row, column 1 headers for my data. And here's the canvas that I'm painting that data on. I'm using the data to paint. So the data I want to change the color of these dots is the integration index. So I just take that and put it onto color. And then I can see already, which was kind of tough to see in the view there on Nate's, is that cities here in the Northeast tend to be more segregated. And for those colorblind in the room, we can edit this. If you don't like that color palette, you can change that up. And so I can see already, the ones that are highly segregated, like Chicago, like St. Louis, all right? And the ones that are not, like in the West. Seattle, where I live, tends to have about the same diversity at the neighborhood level that you see at the city level. And what's really cool, too, is you can start to filter them. So maybe I only want to look. There's so many clumped points here in California. I'm going to just look at California. So I'm going to show a filter and just take a look at California. And now I'm just looking at cities in that one part of the country, right? Or maybe I want to see, I'd really just like to see the ones with the really poor segregation scores. So I'll show that filter. And now I'm going to just look at the ones that are negative, right? So you can make these interactive charts really easily. And you can go beyond just a single chart. So what Tableau does really well is you can actually go in and make another sheet. Let's recreate Nate's scatter plot. So he had the city index, and he had city index, and he had the neighborhood index, and he had that for every city. So I'm just going to click all of those and make a scatter plot out of it. So there we go. I just use that little show me drawer. Now I've got the same kind of a scatter plot view that he had. And I can add that same index to color here, right? And see that there are ones that have, like Chicago down here, right? There we go. High city diversity, low relative neighborhood diversity. So, and I can make the colors the same if I want. And then what I can do after I make these individual views like this is I can actually put them together. And this is, I think, where Tableau separates itself from other tools out there that you can use. I create a dashboard like this, and now I can actually just bring these views together into the same kind of canvas here for your readers. And maybe I'm going to kind of give it a better size that fits. You know what? Hey, some people read on on a phone. So I'm going to give it a range sizing. It can go as low as 450, right? That's about what your iPhone 6 is these days. And so, if I've got a situation where they're looking at it on a smaller device, it'll sort of resize for them. So that's kind of neat. But what I can do, which I think is really neat, is I don't have to, if I just look at my filters here, right? I can filter the map, but maybe I want to filter more than just the map. Maybe I'd love the filters to work together in harmony so that the scatter plot gets changed as well. Well, that's fine. I can apply them to both. So you get this rich interactivity here where I can start to filter in and only look at specific places and look at the views in such a way that your readers can explore the data for themselves and start to see what's happening in different pockets and corners of the neighborhood. Same thing here, right? If I only want to look at the ones that are the most or least segregated, they can have this experience with the data. Now, what we see when people do this is that readers stay, right? The metric that gets changed more than anything is dwell time, because you've given them something to do when they get there. For example, if we go in here also, and you can make these link up so that if I can just highlight them together, right? Maybe I want to hover over the dots and have them highlight in the other charts as well, right? What's this one over here? Oh, that's Seattle. Where's Seattle, right? How about this one over here in the top, Sacramento, Oakland? They can kind of have this experience where they're interacting and playing with the data. It's kind of a fun thing for them to do. And as I mentioned, what really is going to change for them is dwell time. What you'll see popping up is you're going to write a story, and it's going to be about restaurant scores in your neck of the woods, or maybe 911 calls or something like that, or maybe construction, building permits. All these different data sources are available out there, and then you can talk about it, but then you can give them this quantitative view with the data, and they're going to appreciate that. You're going to see sharing happen quite a lot, and as I mentioned, dwell time being the key metric that sometimes increases by a factor of 5. So another quick example here, and I got a few more minutes, is I'm from Seattle, as I mentioned, and this is a common site around our town. We're going to have like a lot of this construction happening. They're trying to build this really ambitious tunnel underneath the waterfront, and to replace a really dilapidated kind of elevated highway system. So construction's happening everywhere, and so if you want to talk about construction in your town, what you might find, and what we've been able to get here right on the open portal for the city of Seattle, is all the building permits. They're all right there. And so this data, you can just go export and download it. And then you're talking about looking at, spreadsheeted data, which a lot of people maybe get a little bit intimidated by. But I'll tell you, I was just, as Brian mentioned, presenting this kind of how-to that I'm going to go through with you all tomorrow, with the ones that choose that session. And they're getting it. It's really not that hard for them. There's a whole wave of people coming out of these J schools here, like here in Missouri, that this isn't really all that difficult for them. But I can start to see what's happening if I make a new workbook here. I can check this out and see, construction permits in Seattle and see where that's going on, right? So if I go in there, and let's just save this actually to the desktop, I can connect it, again, same thing, right? Let's connect exactly to this same data set. It's a huge file. We've got thousands. You may think, oh, that was 100 cities, so that's not that hard. So it must be really difficult if you're going to try to connect to, 47,000 records of data. Oh, gracious, well, how can I even start with that? But it's just the same thing. It really isn't all that more difficult. You're going to go in there and find I think it's actually a CSV. So I'll connect to as you can see there, I was looking at your state primaries here on the flight over. Interesting, but yeah, so building permits, and I can check this out, right? Let's see where this is going, latitude, longitude. All of a sudden I'm looking at all these building permits, and I think we got here there's an ID, this guy, the permit number, right, there we go, detail. I told you there's construction happening everywhere. This is 5 years worth of it, but some are really expensive, like Amazon building a whole new downtown kind of complex, and some aren't, like Joe putting up a fence. So I can make some bigger, some smaller, right? There's different types, so there's a category. Maybe it's construction, maybe it's industrial. I can see where those are happening. I can also look at, let's see here, I can find the industrial ones. That's where you see a big clump up here in the or institutional, here we go. That's where UW is right there, University of Washington, right where the 520 bridge comes across Lake Washington. All right, so that's kind of neat. And I can see, well, what if people say, hey, I think all this construction, you know what? It's all these crazy companies. Well, we can find that out, right? I can say, well, there's lots of different categories of building happening, commercial, industrial, institutional, and so forth. Where are they? Well, I can look at the number of these records and see right away, you know, that it's, in terms of the number of building permits, it's these small single-family duplex permits that are getting the highest amount of volume, right? 24,000 of them in the last 5 years. Way more than commercial, but maybe say, yeah, but where's the money tied up? So we can instead look at it in terms of value and see that, well, it may be a lot of these, but the expensive ones are the commercial ones, like the downtown office complexes and whatnot, right? So again, looking at it in a whole different way. Is it going up? Everybody around town is saying building is going up. Is construction going up? Well, and before we go ahead and write an article about how much construction is going up, let's go ahead and make sure that that's true. So we'll look at the data here and see, are there more permits now? Well, let's get rid of these ones here because this is kind of some dirty data, which there are, right? Let's just look at the last 5 years and see that, yeah, they're going up a lot. Let's look at it every week, right? So you can kind of do this sort of a view and start to see a lot of what's happening, right? And so, oh, well, maybe at a month level. Let's check it out at month level and see what kind. Let's look at the color here and see, oh, wow, well, we can see some seasonal trends here maybe, and when people have their summertime work done and then wintertime, they all hibernate. Or, you know, I can see these like dips and lulls in the commercial buildings associated with the overall economic trends in the country and in the region. So I can start to kind of make sure I'm informed on the data side of the story and make sure that when you're going out there and including some of these, and then you say, okay, that's great, you did it in an application, how do I get that on my website? Well, that's again, you know, where you can kind of think of Tableau as the the YouTube of data visualization. So I can just take this workbook right here that I built, and let me show you this last step and how easy it is to get it on your site. All right, and this is going to be, we'll go back to Nate's story about segregation in the United States, in US cities. How about that? Now, this is pretty easy to put on your site. Let's just go ahead and size that up a little bit just so it looks good. Okay, there we go. And this is quick and dirty. You know, you can do a lot of fine tuning here, but I'm just going to publish this to Tableau Public. So you can download the software program, but then you also create an account on our servers. And then what happens is you push this up to the cloud, and it goes out there, and we'll call this segregation cities. Oh, sorry, I need to extract the data here so that I actually send the whole workbook along with the data right up into Tableau Public. So it's going to give me back a website and a URL, and then I can actually embed this right into. So this is all happening over. I actually have a hard connection now, thank goodness. But there we go. This is this thing. It's in a browser, right? So I can do all of what I could do in the application, but now it's on my website. And this is kind of like having your own YouTube video page. Well, I can also take that, right? And as I'll show you guys how to do tomorrow, just share it, embed it. I've got a little WordPress site here. I don't know, any of you run WordPress? I've got a little blog here I set up on WordPress. I can just make a new post. Let's add new. And you can see I can just put it right on in here and just paste it. That little embed code goes right in here. We'll call this Potter test. This is the magic of Harry Potter. So then we go preview. Okay, so again, this is my site, my little data blog here, data remix, Potter test. There we go. So this is what I was not knowing how to do, and I just did it in 20 minutes. So yeah, I was going fast. Yeah, I'm familiar with the data, but it really doesn't take a lot to learn how to do this. Click and drag. I didn't write a single line of code. So that's that. I hope you guys kind of see now it's very doable, and I'd be happy to answer any questions afterward and hang out with y'all. So is there time for Q&A, Brian? Or?
I'm going to ask, just allow two, and then we'll move on.
Okay, great. Yeah, question.
Would your site accept data from the U.S. Census Bureau?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got U.S. Census data. You can upload that like you can upload anything. Actually, I didn't show it, but I can maybe address this tomorrow. Is it already has built-in census data. So for my maps, I can add background layers that show, you know, by demographic at the county level, state level. I can take a look at, you know, the percentage of people below the poverty line. So sometimes you're going to want to tell a story that's relative to some other demographic or economic variable in the country, and a lot of that's just built right in and just got updated to 2016 values a couple weeks ago.
Well, thank you. It sounds useful.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.